This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 194. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wargame experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Oh. Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, or actually last week, Games Workshop showed off a bunch of new stuff coming for Warhammer 40,000 next year, and that is the Eldar. And I have some thoughts. And some of those thoughts involve squares, which brings me to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Intelligence. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered faster with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you'll show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. Squarespace offers unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, video reviews, and add-ons all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH, Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in head first, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description below to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I will admit, I am not the biggest fan of Eldar. I think out of all of the different 40k factions, Eldar probably ranks the lowest for me. With that said, I do have a lot of experience with Eldar. In my early days of playing Warhammer 40k, one of my buddies played the Eldar and we spent hours watching him try to figure out how to do the psychic phase. I have painted over a 2,000 point army of Eldar as a commission for a cousin of mine, and some of my favorite models in all of Warhammer 40k are in the Eldar range. I really, really like the Eldar Warwalker. It's just really cool. I really, really like how it looks. It's an older kit, and some people think it's showing its age and should get revamped. I think it's perfect. I really, really like the Warwalker. If someone said I had to do an Eldar army, it would be like Warwalker City. Oh, what is the name of the Eldar craft world that's like bone? Is it Uthway? It might be Uthway, but there's like black and bone with kind of this kind of cage or like vine aesthetic. It's really, really nice. And Howling Banshees. I just really like Howling Banshees. I like the old ones. I like the new ones. I think they're really good. But for the most part, Eldar doesn't do much for me. I think Eldar is a little bit too stuck in the past. Some of the newer units that they've shown off, like the double jet bike rider, which is just a regular jet bike with 2 Eldars on it instead of 1. It's fine. Oh, and one big problem I have is all of the dark or the Eldar sorcerers. They wear these cloaks, but it's just a cloak, like it's a bathrobe. There's no interest. There's nothing interesting about the costume design. Looking at the Sisters of Battle, there's a lot of really interesting costume design. The Dogmata model, I want to make that costume. It would move so well. It's so cool. But then the Eldar are just wearing these plasticky ponchos. Why not get a little creative with it? Rip something off, make it look really cool. But instead, they're just guys. They're just regular old guys. And that's kind of my problem with the new Eldar. But what's really frustrating is some of it is just Eldar Guardian with a different gun, and some of it is the coolest models we've seen this year. It's really frustrating. The first model, Lord Fuegan, actually got leaked, and so it got shown off a couple of weeks ago. This guy is phenomenal. 10 out of 10. He's amazing with his super, super long melta gun. He's got his regular Eldar armor, but there's a little bit more going on to his Eldar armor. He's got crotch banners galore, gigantic helmet, back banner, everything I like to see. His armor has these really interesting cutouts, and then when you look inside of the cutout, you see kind of this scaly, segmented like armor design, which looks really, really nice and adds a little visual interest. And it would take a speed paint really, really nicely. You know, you paint them up with like your fire giant orange, and then you just drip just a little bit of a red contrast paint into those sections, and it would look so good. I like that the tips of his winged helmet are like burnt. He just looks really, really good. Everything about him is Eldar and interesting. I like his little melta balls that are attached to his backpack that are leading to a hose to his hilarious like spray gun looking weapon. But it makes sense because it shoots like molten lava. He's just really, really good. And now we see his buddies, the fire dragons. These guys, they're fine. They're Eldar guardians who are painted orange. They have these helmets that look like the old helmets, and they have their melta-guns. The hero can have the big long melta-lance, which is a pretty cool looking gun. I kind of wish the whole squad could have those. It would be a little obnoxious. They'd have to figure out a way for them to kind of all be holding their guns up, just because you can't have a model with like 3 inches of gun barrel sticking out the front of it. But that's my favorite gun. I just think it looks super, super cool. The regular meltas are fine, and I like that they all have one little crotch tassel. It's just a nice little touch. But there's not a lot of juice here. I get it, they look like the old models, but maybe they didn't have to look exactly like the old models. They're fire dragons. Is there any way to get a little bit more dragony with these guys? Like if I'm paying an extra little, if I'm paying 10 dude box price, which is like $60 from Games Workshop for 5 guys, sometimes that can be fine if the guys are cool enough, but I don't know, I would be tempted to just take a box of Guardians and get some 3D printed bits and just make them, because they're not that special. They're just orange. That's the only thing really that's different about these guys. Maybe they could have some kind of a wing motif because they're the fire dragons, or maybe because they shoot melta guns, like they're a fire squad. Maybe they could have like extra armor to protect them from the crazy, insane heat that's coming out of their guns. Maybe it's something with their eyes, because like welders use these hoods that protect their eyes from the arc of the welding torch. So maybe they could have something weird going on with their helmets and their eyes to make it seem like they really need to protect themselves from just how dangerous their weapon is. They're fine. They're just kind of normal fellas. Moving on from the Fire Dragons, we've got Asurmen, the first of the Dire Avengers. The Dire Avengers are essentially tactical marines. They are Eldar who have mastered all of the different forms of Eldar warfare, and so they get fancy blue armor and a little thing on their helmet, and they're extra special Eldar guardians. And this guy is the first. I think he looks awesome. His helmet is extra big because he's extra important. He's got a back banner with his own head on the banner, which is kind of awesome. I love his wrist-mounted shuriken catapults. They look really, really good. I like that he's got like these little shoulder-mounted cameras that follow his arms. And so I don't know how that works, but he must be seeing from the perspective of his own eyes, but then also from the perspective of these cameras to help him shoot those shuriken pistols. I like that his little sword kind of follows the movement of his cape and his pose and his crotch banner and his guns. It all works together really, really nicely. I like that there's a sculpted face on his helmet that feels like something the Eldar would do because they love everything to be really, really pretty. He's just a really, really cool character. I think he looks fantastic. And speaking of Phoenix Lords, we got Baharroth, the swiftest of the Phoenix Lords, the Phoenix Lord of the Swooping Hawks. I built so many Swooping Hawks, the old Finecast Swooping Hawks, and this guy, he is king of the Swooping Hawks. He looks so good. I like the movement. I like that there's like a little banner attached to the barrel of his gun that hangs down and it follows the movement of him, like he's kind of exploding up from a single point. His wings look fantastic. His sword has got this curve to it with a little hook that points back down, and the hook follows the movement of his head. Really, really good design. I like that the little power generator packs of his backpack kind of look like the tail feathers of his bird wings. All works really, really nicely. And then we get to the new Swooping Hawks, and they're fine. They're Dire Avengers, or they're Eldar Guardians, but they got wings. That's, they're neat. But they could be more. They're the Swooping Hawks. They're the hawks, the fastest animal. Like, why not do a little something with that? They got these helmets that kind of have a little bit of a bird face shaped design. I actually think the old bird face design was maybe a little bit stronger because it had a more prominent beak, where these guys have kind of a beak grill, and then they've got little side stormtrooper face mask things. Their eyes look pretty small, like maybe they could have, more hawkish shaped eyes. I think the wings look good, but Ooh, you know what would be great is talons. Like if they had like golden clawed hands and feet that help them grip onto stuff, because presumably they swoop in and then they shoot their guns and then they swoop out. So what if they had like graspy talons that really help them move around? It'd make them it would just give them a little more something than a different helmet and a different gun and a different color. That's really what they've got, is a different color. They're fine, they're way better than the old ones, but they're just the old ones correct. Like they're just the old ones with a little bit better proportions and a little bit more, but there's nothing really meaty to sink your teeth into. But speaking of meaty, then we got the Phoenix Lord of the Warp Spiders. And goddamn, this model's perfect. No notes. He looks so ridiculously cool. And it makes perfect sense. Like he is the chief of the Warp Spiders. He looks like a spider. He's got all of his legs and arms like pulled tight together to look like a spider. The warp energy from his teleportation looks like a spider web. His little particle casters and his, I don't know, the other one's maybe a flamer weapon, they look like spider claws. The segmentation of his back armor is kind of in the shape of a spider web. His helmet has extra eyeballs because spiders have 8 eyes. He's got this little tuft of hair, which reminds me of the cute little jumping spiders that live in my windowsill. Like, he's really, really good. He is a Spider-Man. It's really, really cool. And then we get to the Warp Spiders. And they're Eldar Guardians. They really look like Eldar Guardians because they're red. And the regular Games Workshop Guardians are also red. And they're just dudes, and they got the spider gun, and they got the spider backpack. But other than that, they're just regular Guardians. And these are what the old models look like. Like the old models were kind of weird and crunchy and single pieces of metal. And I think it is definitely nostalgia goggles of looking at those old models and reading the description of what the Warp Spiders are, and then kind of doing the mental photoshopping of like, oh yeah, they're low to the ground and they're scurrying along because they're the Warp Spiders. But now we see, we get to put our glasses on and we see the high res image of those old models, and they look like this, and they're correct. These are what they should look like. This is the high fidelity version of the old Warp Spiders, but they're not the Warp Spiders. Number one, I don't like that they're all up on their tippy toes because it makes the guns feel really, really light. Like those guns are the same size as they are. And I get that there's one little robot hand that helps them hold up the guns, but it doesn't make the gun feel weightless. Like that's a lot of weight on their tippy toes. Their feet should be planted to make it look like they're carrying all of that crazy gear. One of the old models had like spider web wrapped around his armor. Do that to all of them, why not? They're the Warp Spiders. They should have a little spidery something going on. You gave the hero a bunch of eyes, give all of these guys a bunch of eyes. I do kind of like that the hero has like extra hands coming out of his jump pack. Maybe give them all extra hands so that they have more limbs, so that they're a little bit more spidery. I don't know, it feels like whoever the Games Workshop sculpting team is, they gave one prompt to the people in charge of the heroes, and they gave one prompt to the people in charge of the rank and file dudes. And the heroes were like, yeah, you got, read all of this lore and read about the character and the original ideas behind this character and what we want them to feel like and what kind of emotions you want people to have when they look at these characters. And then they've designed something that is exactly right. And then for all of the rank and file troopers, they were like, make it look exactly like the old guys, but make it look like the Eldar Guardians that we currently make. And that's exactly what we got, down to the letter. They get full marks for what they made. But there's nothing exciting, there's nothing super interesting. There's nothing that you couldn't really get if you just took the Eldar Guardian squad and some 3D printed components and kit bashed them together. Make them a little something. Give them a little extra something going on. They feel really boring. the Eldar are kind of weird because on the one hand, you kind of have an Eldar army, like a normal army of guys who are all wearing the same colored armor. But then you got these weird things, the aspect warriors, which don't make any sense at all. Like you got the green striking scorpions, like you can kind of spec into like what do I need for this type of battle? Like, am I going up against guard? Then I probably want to take the salamanders or the fire dragons. Am I going up against like Tyranids? Then I probably want to take the striking scorpions. Am I going up against something like Genestealer Cult with tons of uppy, downy, and movement shenanigans? Then maybe I want to take the Swooping Hawks. Like, that's kind of the Eldar's answer of like, why do the Eldar still get to exist when they kind of seem a lot lamer than all the other factions? It's because they've perfected the art of war and they only use exactly the resources that they need to get the job done, because they have soldiers that have devoted their entire infinite existence to one specific aspect of combat. And these guys just feel like slightly fancier dudes. They seem like Eldar Guardians cosplaying as birds and spiders and orange guys. There's nothing super juicy. The warp spiders for me was kind of the biggest sad face, because the warp spiders are really cool. You didn't hear this from me, but there are other warp spider-ish looking models out there that I think are really, really good. A little bit better than these new miniatures from Games Workshop. They're fine. I also think another problem is just the Eldar armor is, the tight form-fitting armor with these kind of soft muscle-shaped panels. I think it looks good on the normal guys and like the guys riding the jet bikes, but give them a little extra spice to their armor. It makes sense that Space Marines, all the different armors are just very slight variations of one single armor because the Imperium can't make that much stuff, and so we'll take the heavy greaves off of your armor so that you can run just a little bit faster. But Eldar, where they sing their machines out of bone, it could be anything. The Dark Eldar. So the Dark Eldar, they have a unit called the Scourge, which is essentially a Swooping Hawk. But those Eldar have had their bones hollowed and lengthened. They've got long arms and long legs that end in taloned claws. They have wings grafted to their backs. Like, they have transformed themselves into an Eldar that has the power of flight. And it's macabre, but it's also really interesting. Where this is a dude with a jetpack, and the jetpack is shaped like wings because it's neat. It looks fun. The Dark Eldar have a unit called Rex, which is essentially just another, like a Dark Eldar that carries more close, or they don't carry more close combat weapons, but they carry some more ranged weapons. But they're kind of like these skin flayed monstrosities that feel no pain, because they actually do feel pain. They just like it a lot. And so that's why they wear the type of armor that they wear. And so I feel like the story behind the models informed the actual miniatures. And so when you see them on the tabletop, you kind of get it. You get their vibe. You get what they're going for. But these guys are just, I guess the warp spiders are spiders, because the box said that they're spiders, and they kind of have like a pointy back that looks a little bit like a spider's abdomen. But I don't know. I think Games Workshop needs to kind of rip themselves off more, because we get these really, really cool artistic depictions of these characters. And when you see them in situation, it helps to inform on like what their vibe is. But then when you see the miniature on the tabletop, it's just a architectural drawing or a plan drawing of the character, and it doesn't have the gravitas, it doesn't have the juice that you want to feel when you see these characters, which I know they can do it, because all of these heroes are amazing. Every single one of them is top tier, incredible. But then we just get to the dudes, and unfortunately, they just feel like dudes. I want more than dudes. I am now an elf player. I am a dark elf player. I feel like the Dark Eldar range, even though it's kind of old today, I feel like it still holds its weight. I feel like you look at a Dark Eldar army and like anybody looking in, I could show the Dark Eldar army to my sister. She could probably just about guesstimate what everything does and what everything is about. The grotesques are giant. It's in the name. They're gross. They're big, gross dudes. The homunculus are even grosser little dudes. But they help the other grosser dudes. Like everything, the Dark Eldar are just really, really good. And I'm a little bit nervous because Dark Eldar range refresh is coming. Holy moly, do they need it? Because the Eldar, they're getting some love right now. The Dark Eldar literally has a bunch of models that don't exist. We have, I think, 4 or 5 units in our codex or in our index that don't exist. You can't buy that model from Games Workshop. And so does that mean that that model is going to go away? Probably not. It's hard to believe grotesques are going to go away. One of our, Dark Eldar, we don't have a lot of units. It would be really sad if we lost any of our units. And our stuff is so weird. But Dark Eldar are so weird. I feel like it makes sense to have those weirder models. Where Eldar, they've had models that are like 20 or 30 years old, getting a refresh, and it's nice to see. But I'd like to see, instead of just a refresh, maybe a little bit of a reimagining, a reinterpretation. I remember you don't see this a lot in the newer codexes, but in the old codexes, every single model got a page dedicated to it because every single model in every army is someone's favorite model. It's the reason they wanted to collect that army. It's the reason they wanted to start Warhammer. If your favorite thing is Necron's spider spelled with a Y for copyright reasons, you want to be able to read all about the spider and why it's awesome. But I feel like right now, it's kind of like, yeah, people like the Eldar. They like the Eldar. We don't need to have dedicated lore blurbs and stories and stuff about every single thing because we know people like warp spiders, so they'll get the warp spiders. Forgetting that people need to rediscover these things or discover them for the very first time. They need to know why these models are awesome. And I think these models, they check every single box. I don't think anyone is going to get in trouble for creating these models. But they're kind of boring. They're just a little bit bland. And Games Workshop is capable of making things that are not bland. You know what's really not bland? Our website, EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch, like the new Nick and Jay dice, and this is the best place to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get 1 credit that they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. For the month of December, December. The year's almost over. This December, we made The Fall, Part 1, Buildings. This set of terrain is the easiest way to get a ton of terrain really fast. This set focuses on printable decorations for cardboard, foam core, and Pringles cans buildings. Build out a grimdark militarized fort dripping with details. With a selection of sandbag-laden battlements, barbed wire defenses, armored wall decorations, and noble eagle lookout posts, this set allows for large terrain to be built in record time. And it has printable textures to add detail and decorations to take this terrain to the next level. This is the first of 3 releases that focus on getting a proper 40k board up and running as easily as possible. I feel a little bit bad poo-pooing on the Eldar as hard as I'm poo-pooing on the Eldar, but let me know in the comments, am I getting at something? I just feel like the Eldar troopers are just not living up to the hype. And I'm an elf player. I collect Dark Eldar because they're the cool version of Eldar. I'm probably going to play Dark Eldar tonight because I have a game of 40k planned, and I'm going to try to beat Sean. I don't think my Eldar has beaten Sean yet, but maybe today. Thanks for watching.